At first, before we start, I'd like to revise the previous part of the story. I'd like to ask a question. What did Araceli ask from Juan Verdades to bring for her? What did Araceli ask Juan Verdades to bring for her? Yes, Abdurrahman Islam.
She asked him to have all the apples of the royal tree,
Yes, well done. Of
the manzo. Yeah.
El Manzano Real. Yes, well done, Abdurrahman. Excellent. Thanks so much, Abdurrahman. The second question that I'd like to ask, what did Commander Daz do when Araceli asked from him to bring all the apples of Mandalorian? Who can tell me? What did Commander Daz do when Araceli asked from him all the apples of Mandalorian? Yes, Ahmed Sema?
She asked him to give her all the apples of El Manzan Real.
Yes, what did he do?
He brings them all in a
Yes.
wagon, in a wooden wagon, and he put his jacket and hat uh, in on
No, listen to me, Miss
on.
Ahmed. Listen, at first,
Okay,
he could bring all the apples, or he start to think what he can do.
he started to sing first.
Yes, at first he couldn't. Yes. Then what
Yes,
happened? Then what happened?
he brought them all in a wagon.
Yes, and he delivered them to Arasani. Yes.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Ahmed. Please, all of you, turn on your cam. All of you, with no excuse. Please, turn on your cam. Okay. Now we are going to complete our listening for this story. Before we start listening, let me give you an idea about this part that we are going to listen. As I told you, for one Verdans, he gives or collect all the apples. He collected all the apples of Il Mandan and gave them to Araceli. But he started to think what he can do, what he could tell the owner, what he could tell Don Ignacio about what he did. He put his jacket and the hat on the tree, and he pretended that he was talking to his owner Don Ignacio. He started by saying, "Good evening, mi capataz." He pretended that he heard the tree say, "Good evening, mi patron." He imagined that he was talking to Don Ignacio. He's trying to think in a lie what he can tell him. How goes it with my cattle and land? Your cattle are healthy, your pastures are green, and the fruit of El Mandano Real. He started to be hesitated by saying, the, the crows have carried the fruit away. Then he said, but the words were hardly out of his mouth. He can't produce a word because he couldn't lie. The words were hardly out of his mouth when he heard himself say, "No, that's not true, mi patron. I picked the fruit." Then he paused and he complete again, and then he stopped himself. He took a deep breath and started over again with good evening, mi capatas. And when he reached the end, he sputtered again. He was hesitated by saying, the, the wind shook the apples to the ground, and the cows came and ate them. Then he paused again. No, 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 they didn't, me patron. As we say together, he was hesitated to tell a lie. As you say, that Mandras always known by the man who couldn't tell a lie. He can't believe himself if he can tell a lie or no. He can't accept what he will do. Okay? Then he complete also by asking himself. He tried over and over, until he realized that there was no way he could tell a lie. But he knew he could never come right out and say what he had done either. He had to think of another way to tell Don Ignacio about what he did. He took his hat and the got from the stump from the branch of the tree and sadly set out for the ranch. As you know, he will also go on in thinking of what he could tell his owner about the abbess of Manzanilla. And we will know together that Juan Verdades will, will tell the truth. Couldn't tell a lie. As we know also at the end of the story that Don Ignacio won the ranch and he will take the ranch, he will take the ranch of Don Arturo and give it to $100 as a reward for not telling a lie. And we know together that $100 are going to marry our Sally. As also said, that she tried to keep the ranch in her family. So she would try to ask for him for marriage. So he asked her at first for marriage and she would accept. And all the peoples will make a party or set a party for them, okay? And he gives them all the people that attend the party a basket of the apples of El Manzano tree. That's all the event in the story, I summarized in this part. Now we are going to listen for the text. Be ready, please, to listen. But before, okay, I'd like to a video about the narrator, but let's listen at first for this part. Kusai, please tell me if you can hear or no, okay? Kusai. Okay, I play the sound, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone who is absent today? Is there anyone who's absent today?
I don't think so that there are absent. Yes, we have one absent.
Who?
Wait, I will see now. Okay.
Mubarak, where is
Wait,
Mubarak?
give me a minute.
I'll check, don't worry, I'll check.
Bark is here.
Mubarak is here?
I think he's here.
No, he's in here.
Wait. No, he's
No,
not here.
Mubarak isn't here. Yes, Mubarak isn't
I
here.
don't know why Mubarak every period go out of his session.
It's up to him. I send now on the group to tell his parents, okay? He didn't join the session. Okay. So only Mubarak. Okay. Now let's
Only
listen.
Barker.
Yes, now let's listen. Tell me if you can hear or not.
the news and then to wait for a
It's okay?
Yes.
Thanks.
chance to talk to Don Ignacio, too. Juan rode until he came to a place where there were several dead trees. He dismounted and walked up to one of them. Then he took off his hat and jacket and put them on the dead tree and pretended it was Don Ignacio. He started talking to it to see if he could tell it a lie. "Good evening, mi capitas," he pretended he heard the tree say. "Good evening, mi patron. How goes it with my cattle and land? Your cattle are healthy, your pastures are green. And the fruit of El Manzano Real? The crows have carried the fruit away."
As I told you, he was hesitated to tell a lie. He tried to do many things to try to tell a lie, but he couldn't. Please, all of you again, your cam must be on to see if you follow me through your book or no. Please, it's for you, not for me. Please, your cam must be on.
But the words were hardly out of his mouth when he heard himself say, "No, that's not true, mi patron. I picked the fruit." And then he stopped himself. He took a deep breath and started over again with, "Good evening, mi capitas." And when he reached the end, he sputtered, The wind shook the apples to the ground, and the cows came and ate them. No, they didn't, mi patron. He tried over and over until he realized there was no way he could tell a lie. But he knew he could never come right out and say what he had done either. He had to think
Let's complete listening for this part.
of another way to tell Don Ignacio. He took his hat and coat from the stump and sadly set out for the ranch. All day long Juan worried about what he would say to Don Ignacio, and all day long Don Ignacio wondered what he would hear from his foreman, because as soon as Araceli had shown the apples to her father, he had run gleefully to tell Don Ignacio what had happened. "Now you'll see, compadre," Don Arturo gloated. "You're about to hear a lie from Juan Verdades." Don Ignacio was heartsick to think that all his apples had been picked, but he had agreed that Don Arturo could try whatever he wanted. He sighed and said, "Very well, compadre. We'll see what happens this evening." Don Arturo rode off to gather the other ranchers.
Listen to me for this part, please. As I said here, he took his head and cut from the stump. Stump means the end piece of as a branch, and sadly set out for the ranch. All day long, one worried about what he would say. He was worried. It was sad. How can what he can tell for his honor? And all day long, Don Ignacio wondered what he would hear from his foreman, because as soon as Araceli had shown the apples to her father, and her father had run happily to tell Don Ignacio what had happened. He said for him, "Now you will see, compadre." Don Arturo gloated. It means the word gloated. It means exclaimed triumph. It means that he exclaimed the victory, that he will be the winner, that he will be the winner. He said, "You are about to hear a lie from Juan Verdades." Don Ignacio was here sick. The word of here, sorry, it's heart sick. The word of heart sick, it means very sad. The word heart sick, you can write the meaning of it. Heart sick. This one, it means very sad or depressed. To think, all his apples had been packed, but he had agreed that Don Arturo could try whatever he wanted. He sighed and said, sighed, the word sighed means priest. This one, it means priest. Peace out heavily and said, "Very well, compadre. We will see what happens this evening." So what happened after that? Let's go on listening.
Who were witnesses to the bet, leaving Don Ignacio to pace nervously up and down in his house. And then, after Don Ignacio received a visit from Araceli, and she made a request that he couldn't deny, he paced even more nervously. All the while Juan went about his work, thinking of what he would say to Don Ignacio. That evening, the foreman went as usual to make his report to his employer, but he walked slowly, and his head hung down. The other ranchers were behind the bushes listening, and Araceli and her mother were watching anxiously from a window of the house. The conversation began as it always did. "Good
So they were waiting for what would happen if one tell lie or no. So let's complete listening. What happened?
evening, mi capitas. Good evening, mi patron. How goes it with my cattle and land? Your cattle are healthy, your pastures are green. And the fruit of El Manzano Real?" Juan took a deep breath and replied, "Oh, patron, something terrible happened today. Some fool picked your apples and gave them away." Don Ignacio pretended to be shocked and confused. "Some fool picked them," he said. "Who would do such a thing?"
The next page, please. We complete only the first part together.
Juan turned his face aside. He couldn't look at Don Ignacio. The rancher asked again, "Who would do such a thing? Do I know this person?" Finally the foreman answered, "The father of the fool is my father's father's son. The fool has no sister and no brother. His child would call my father grandfather."
So who took all the apples of the Manzano Real? and he gave to Araceli. He talked about himself. Juan Verdades, as he said, the child would call my father grandfather. So this one is who is Juan Verdades. In this way, Juan Verdades tell the truth, but in a different way. He said, he said, his child would call my father grandfather. And he said before it, the fool has no sister and no brother. He is talking about himself. And he said, the father of the fool is my father's son. My father's son. He is talking about himself. So in this way, he didn't tell a lie. He told the truth. We'll know the rest of this part tomorrow about what happened after he told the truth. Any question for this part, grade 6? Any question? Okay, I choose here some question about the story, about who said to me. We'll answer together. Then I show you a movie about the story. It's not a movie, a video for the narrator that we have a picture of him, Joe Hayes, in page 441. This picture of the storyteller, Joe Hayes, page 441. I'll show you a video when he was explaining the events of the story or tell us the events of the story. Okay, but after we discuss together about the question that we have today. If you know the answer, please start with your hand. I show you now the PowerPoint presentation. And the first question, it's only one question, but we have 3 points. The first one, who said to him? Number 1. Yes, who can answer? Raise your hands. Your cattle are fine. Your pasture is greener than ever. Who said these words? Yes, Omar.
Don Arturo to Don Ignacio.
Oh my God. Again, can you read the quotation again, please? He said,
Your cattle are fine and your pasture is greener than ever.
yes, who said? Who always asks this question and who replied with this answer? What about my pasture? Who said always ask about his pasture, his ranch? Who? Don Ignacio, yes.
Don Ignacio, yes.
And the one who answered, he said, your cattle are fine, your pasture is greener than ever. It's the answer of the question.
Arturo.
Juan Verdades. Huh?
Oh, yes.
Juan Verdades
to Don Ignacio.
Yes, to Don Ignacio. Same.
That's Mr. I confused of the names. The names are very strange.
Okay, take care. His name is Juan Verdades. Okay, he's the hero of the story. Okay, yes. Number 2. I would like to have all the apples from Il Mandan. Who said these words? Yes, Abdurrahman Tamim. Your
The daughter of Don.
Your cam, please.
Okay. Wait, mister.
Yes.
Can you see me now?
No, I move up now. See. Yes.
Now,
okay.
mister.
Yes, okay. Say the name, please.
Okay, the daughter.
Say her name.
It's hard, yeah, mister. Only
Araceli. There's no hard.
Araceli to Juan Vervan.
To what? To what?
Juan Verdades.
Oh my God. Juan Verdades. Juan Verdades. Okay. Again.
It's hard, yeah, mister. Name. I am saying anything.
Okay, just try this. Can you repeat again?
Araceli to Juan Verdades.
This is D.
Araceli to Juan Verdades.
Verdades. Okay, Verdades. Thank you.
And then.
Okay, thanks so much, Abrahman. This way we start our session. Okay, number 3. Yes, Omar Abdul Latif. This one would be at the end of the story. Will you marry me? Who asked?
Okay, I think that is Juan Verdades.
Yes, Juan Verdades
Yes.
to Araceli
You are silly.
after he became the owner of a ranch. Yes,
Uh,
thanks so
yes.
much. Yes, excellent, Omar. Yes, excellent. And now we have about, I think that we have about 13 minutes, okay? I show you a video about the story for the storyteller, Joe Hines, okay? So please be ready to listen for this video. He is the narrator of the story. He is the narrator or the storyteller of uh, Juan Verdal's story. We are going to listen together for this video. At first, I'd like to see its photo in your pop page 441. Page 441. You can see the photo in your pop before I play the video. Just wait, I'll share the video with you now. As is as
I'm going to tell the story of Juan Verdades, el hombre que no sabía mentir.
as we can see, use some Spanish word. Please lower your hand, Olvi. Lower your hand. Lower your hand, please. Okay, we are going to listen now.
A man who couldn't tell a lie. The whole story started one Sunday afternoon in late summer. A group of wealthy rancheros had gathered on the village plaza. They were joking and laughing and talking about events on their ranches. And one of those men, his name was Don Ignacio. He had a wonderful apple tree on his ranch. He called that tree El Manzano Real, the royal apple tree. It had been planted by his great grandfather, and that tree gave the fattest, reddest, juiciest, sweetest fruit of any apple tree in the country round about. Everyone for miles around knew about El Manzano Real, and every year everyone hoped they would receive a small basket of its delicious fruit. And so each one of the ranchers asked Don Ignacio how the fruit was ripening on his tree. And to each one he replied, "Va de maravilla, amigo. It's doing marvelously. My foreman takes excellent care of that tree. And every evening he reports to me. He tells me how the fruit is ripening." When he said that to his old friend, Don Arturo,
Hey, Mubarak Nasser, please. Mubarak Nasser. Mubarak Nasser. Mubarak.
Yes, mister.
Please don't join late, please. Okay, I consider next time if you are late, I consider that you are absent. Okay,
What?
thank you. Join late, yes? You joined the session late.
Yes, I joined after 5 minutes.
Why?
Cause I was eating in the break.
You have a time for the session, so you must join on time. Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry.
Next time, if you are late, I consider that you are absent. Thank you
Okay.
much. You can make yourself.
his friend said to him, "Don Ignacio, do you mean to tell me you don't care for your magnificent tree yourself? How can you have so much faith in your employee?" Don Ignacio told him, "My foreman has never failed me in any way. He has never told me a lie." Don Arturo said, "I don't believe that. There never was an employee who didn't lie to his boss." But Don Ignacio told him, "This young man doesn't know how to lie. His name is Juan Valdez, but everybody calls him Juan Verdades because he is so honest. Well, the two friends went on arguing back and forth in a good natured way, but little by little they began raising their voices and calling the attention of the other men on the plaza. And then finally, Don Arturo spoke up in a loud voice and he said, I will bet you anything you want that within 2 weeks I can make that foreman tell you a lie. Don Ignacio said, Muy bien. I will bet my whole ranch against your ranch that you can't do it. When the other ranchers heard that, they started to laugh. Ho, 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 Don Arturo, they said, now we'll see how sure you are that you're right. And Don Arturo said, as sure as I am that my name is Arturo Jose Santa Maria Rodriguez Carvajal. And then he said to Don Ignacio, it's a bet, but you must give me permission to try anything I want. The two men shook hands on the bet, and the other ranchers agreed to be witnesses. And then soon the gathering broke up, and all of the ranchers mounted their horses to ride home to their ranches. As Don Arturo was riding along, he began to think about what he had just done. By the time he got home, he was afraid that maybe he had made a very big mistake. When he told his wife and his daughter about the bet he had made, his wife started to cry. She said, Ay, Dios mío, ¿qué será de nosotros si perdemos el rancho? But Don Arturo's daughter, her name was Araceli, and she was a very lively and clever young woman. She laughed and said to her mother, Stop crying, stop worrying. We're not going to lose our ranch. And then she suggested to her father that he come up with an excuse for the family to stay at Don Ignacio's ranch for a while. She said, if we're staying on his ranch, we'll surely find out a way to come out the winners. So the next day, Don Arturo rode to Don Ignacio's ranch, and he said to his friend, my men are repairing the cracks in the walls of my house and giving all the walls a fresh new coat of whitewash. It would be better for my wife and my daughter and me to be away from the home. Could we stay here with you for a while? Don Ignacio was a bit suspicious, but he was bound by the rules of hospitality. He smiled and said, Sí, cómo no, esta es su casa. Make yourself at home. So later that afternoon, Don Arturo brought his daughter and his wife to live in Don Ignacio's house for a while. And the next morning, the girl, Araceli, got up at dawn and went to the ranch kitchen, as she always did at home, and she made some coffee. The young foreman was already there, drinking a cup of coffee he had made for himself and eating a breakfast of stale tortillas. She smiled at him and greeted him politely. He returned the greeting and then hurriedly finished his breakfast and went off to do his work. And then that evening, the foreman went to make his report to Don Ignacio, and the girl stood close by listening in. She heard what they said. First, Don Ignacio said, Buenas tardes, mi capataz. And Juan replied, Buenas tardes, mi patron. Don Ignacio said, How goes it with my cattle and land? The cattle are fat, the pastures are green. And the fruit of el manzano real? Beautiful, beautiful, and ripening well. Except, of course, they did say it in Spanish. It went more like this. Buenas tardes, mi capataz. Buenas tardes, mi patron. ¿Qué tal del terreno y mi ganado?
Omar Abdulatif, you send me a message with number. What do you mean? I don't understand.
By mistake, Mr. By mistake.
Okay.
Las vacas son gordas, muy verde el prado. Y la fruta del manzano real, hermosa, hermosa, está por madurar. Later that night, Araceli and her father talked, and they decided on a plan. The next morning, she got up before dawn. She went to the kitchen and made coffee. She made fresh, warm tortillas. And she offered them to Juan when he arrived at the kitchen. He thanked her very kindly. And then each morning she did the same thing. And just as she and her father had expected, the young foreman started falling in love with Araceli. Was this? She began falling in love with the handsome young foreman, him. So she continued to work on the plan that she and her father had. But well, as for Juan, he knew that he was only a worker. He didn't dream of marrying the daughter of a wealthy rancher. But he couldn't help but want to please her in some way. So one morning, as they sat sipping their coffee, he said, "Señorita Araceli, you're so kind to get up early each morning and have coffee and a good breakfast waiting for me. I'd like to repay you in some way. Ask me for whatever you would like from this ranch. I will talk to Don Ignacio and see that it's given to you." That is exactly the question the girl was waiting for. And she gave the answer that she and her father had planned. She said, "The only thing I'd like to have from this whole ranch is all of the apples from El Manzano Real." And dismayed by that request, he said, "Oh, please ask for something else. You know how much Don Ignacio treasures the fruit from that tree. He would never agree to that. I would have to pick the apples without permission. And then what could I say to Don Ignacio?" With that, the conversation ended and they went their separate ways. And then that evening, as usual, Juan gave his report to Don Ignacio. They said the same thing they said each evening. Don Ignacio began, "Buenas tardes, mi capataz. Buenas tardes, mi patrón. ¿Qué tal de terreno y del ganado? Las vacas son gordas, muy verde el prado. Y la fruta del manzano real, hermosa, hermosa, está por madurar." And then the next morning, again, Juan said to kindness, "The only thing I want from this ranch is the apple." Each morning they had the same conversation. She kept asking for, but with each passing day, Juan was. One day before the 2 weeks of the bet would have ended, he gave in. He said he would give her the fruit. He hugged him and thanked him warmly, and for a moment his spirits rose. But then as he rode away, they sank again.
That's enough for this part of today. We'll meet tomorrow, inshallah, and end our study for the story. I hope all of you that you understood this part with me and after also you listen for this video. Do you have any question for this part of the story?
No, Mr. Mrs. Huda is here. Mr.
Okay, okay. You don't have
Yes,
any
I
question?
think that too.
Omar, when is the
Okay.
social period?
The last
Tomorrow,
period.
inshallah, we are going to complete the last part of the story. Mrs. Hoda, you are the host now.
كده اهو.
Thank you, Mr. Hamada. Thank you
You
so
are
much.
Teacher, can I say something, teacher?
You want to say
The quiz
something
is
to
so
Mr.
long.
Hamada? It's okay.
Don't you bring for us, teacher, every time above 25 questions?
Yeah,
Teacher,
it is 26.
every week. Teacher, today we have 3
For
quizzes and they were so tall.
for 3 weeks, you don't have a grammar